Hey guys, it's Adrienne Dara. So this is our end result. So get ready. I'm going to take you step by step through how we achieve this. I'm going to start off by showing you part of the consultation. I want you to watch it, and then I'm going to be voiceovering for the rest of the appointment, start to finish, with formulas, tips, tricks, and application. Because I'm not going to make you that dark. But the idea of that softness, where it's just everything, there's not one piece that's brighter than another, if that makes sense. So really keeping the color more like fluid and more melty sort of. But I still think you should be a blonde.
You do.
Even the idea of this, where it's more of a melt than it is so much of like, okay, right here in the front, you've got those strong pops, and then the back a couple. It's just more of a softer melt. And we'll try it out and see how you feel. But I do think you should stay blonder on your face. Okay. All right, guys, it's time to get mixing. So I'm going in doing my baby lights using Goldwell Silk Lift 30 volume, and then my bond multiplier that I am using is going to be Olaplex. I am making sure that I'm getting a nice sort of creamy consistency so I don't get any bleeding. Big thing for you guys to know is make sure you mix hardcore when you are doing these services, because this is kind of, if you're not mixing properly and you're leaving some of those chunks of lightener, that can actually cause bleeding. The foils that I'm using, just so you guys know, is Formar Starstruck Silver in Heavy. I actually really like those foils. So now we're going to get right into it. So notice there's already some baby lights on the side, okay? So with the baby lights on the side, guys, everything I did on a diagonal. Your hair naturally falls on a diagonal and on an angle on any part of your head minus the very top of your head. So when I foil, and I say this a lot, I say this in my online classes, which you can view on my website, www.adriendarahair.com. There is tons of online education there at very reasonable rates. And the biggest thing that I say is I foil to the curvature of my client's head. I also foil to people's natural hairlines, because everyone's hairline kind of calls for different things. Sometimes I rip teeny tiny foils if it calls for that. But it's really important to, sort of take these tools that you're going to learn from joining this membership group and try to apply them to situations and comfort levels that are going to work best for you. This is not the all holds barred of how you have to do these applications. These are just some great tips for how I like to do them. So when I do baby lights, guys, I take micro slices. Yes, it's time consuming, but I really find that it helps to diffuse those lines and keep everything really clean. It helps me to avoid bleeding over saturation, not enough saturation. So again, guys, very micro slices. I choose to do slices instead of weaves because that is just my preference. If you are someone who enjoys doing a weave, go for it. So notice also how tight to the hairline I'm getting, guys. It's really important to make sure that you're packing those foils on tight. And if you have any fear about how close my product has gotten actually to her physical scalp, do not fear, because I made sure that I mixed to the proper Goldwell Silk Lift recommended consistency. So always make sure that if you're going to get that close to the scalp, that you're being very aware of your mixing and your consistency to avoid bleeding. So as we sort of work our way through the rest of her head, I'm going to just sort of explain to you guys the process. I also want to talk to you a little bit more about client consultations, because I just had you guys watch a little clip, a little piece of the client consult. Now we're at the back of the head. Her entire back of her head, I am actually doing weave and tease. So the weave and tease technique is a super easy technique that really helps to keep soft lines. I take diagonal sections. I do about a 5 to 6 weave across the head. I tease 2 to 3 times. And then I am using the Formar Rose All Day foils here. And I'm also using a Formar brush, which is a great balayage brush if you're someone who's new to balayage and you're kind of getting used to the flow of blending. I always take my product and saturate the middle of the hair shaft first, work my way down to sort of like saturate and make sure it holds on to the foil. And then I use the tip of my brush to feather up so that I can get a little bit more of a softer consistency. Think of it this way: the more times that you tease using your actual balayage brush that actually has lightener on it, the softer the line will be. I always say in my classes, sort of the messier it is, the more guaranteed you are to have a really nice flow throughout. And I think it's really important, again, to make sure your consistency is strong in what you're doing. So now after I have done all my foils, it is toning time, guys. So I'm going in with 06N, 06NB, and 06T for the roots in Redken Shades EQ. I am making sure that I'm separating out my front hairline. I want to tone my front hairline last. So I'm going in, I'm doing all my roots now. Okay, so all the roots first. You're going to let those roots sit for about 1 minute. Now, again, guys, this is just particularly what I'm doing with this client because I just want to tint her roots. She's a natural level 7, but like a dark 7. I just want to tint her just a little bit. And here's a little trick for you guys with Redken Shades EQ. It's a little bit sheer. Make sure you always bump down a level if you're just looking to tint a little tiny bit. Then I'm going to do her mids and her ends. So it's sat for about a minute. Now I'm going to do her mids and ends. Mids and ends is also Redken Shades EQ. It's 08V, 08GI, 09GI, 09P, and a little bit of 09B and clear. And this is our finished result. Now with Redken Shades EQ, it is very fast acting. You don't have to let it sit a super long time. So make sure you put that clear in, guys, because the clear is going to cut it and the clear is going to help you to make sure that you are not over toning and getting any muddiness. So biggest thing I want to tell you guys is something I learned from doing a proper client consultation with my client was that last time we gave her a strong money piece and she wasn't super into it, it turns out. So it was important for me to find out from her if she was looking for a more blended look, still with a lot of pop, but something where she would look in the mirror, she'd feel like a blonde, but wouldn't feel like she had this really sort of harsh grow out line. So if you notice from the beginning, I showed you guys a clip of when I was showing pictures off of my Instagram. Utilize your Instagram pages. Utilize other people's Instagram pages. Pictures are so important because pictures are what help both you and your client to communicate clearly. The last thing I'm going to tell you guys is whenever I do my client consults for color services, I sit down eye to eye with my clients. This is the best way to make sure that you keep your client engaged and totally in the consultation. Make sure that they don't check out, make sure you don't check out, and also just to make sure that the two of you have an understanding of what the color service is going to be. The last thing I'll say, guys, if you're not 100% sure of what your client wants, don't walk away until you're both totally clear.